Hello, everybody. My name is Cameron, and this is my favorite person in the world, Virginia Warnken Kelsey. I hope she's that way on your screen because she is for me. And we are two of the singers from Roomful of Teeth, which is a 8-person vocal band singing wild music with lots of experimental vocal styles and techniques, things that we've learned all over the world, things that we've kind of created in our own strange, beautiful world. And we have the pleasure and honor and great fun of working with the San Francisco Girls Chorus this year on an amazing project. So we're here to express our excitement about that and to tell you a little bit about ourselves and what we do. First of all, Virginia, hello.
Hi. Hello.
Virginia, how did you become a musician? What led you to the path of being a musician?
Well, in 1989, um, Walt Disney Pictures released a movie called The Little Mermaid.
I've heard of this
And
mermaid.
yes, I was 5 years old at the time, and I became obsessed. I made my parents take me to see it in the theater 5 times. And Ariel is a singer, and I fell in love with those songs, and I used to sing them in my room by myself all the time. And I wouldn't let my parents come in and listen, but they would listen through the door, and they were like, "Ooh, she's a good singer." But in all seriousness, I grew up in a really musical household. Both of my parents are musicians. And I don't think there was ever a time in my life where I didn't want to be a singer. I think that was always my plan for myself. And I'm really fortunate that it was something that was available to me, both just in my own kind of abilities and also the opportunities that made themselves available to me. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And I'm really grateful to get to do what I love for a living.
And what
Cameron,
kind
what
of
about you?
stuff do you
Oh,
do now?
now I do, well, obviously, I do a lot of contemporary classical music or classical contemporary composition with Roomful of Teeth and with other groups, other contemporary ensembles like that. But I also do a lot of early music. Sort of what we think of as music written before the year 1750. So that's actually I have a master's degree specifically in that. So I do a lot of that. I sing a lot of Baroque music and a lot of Renaissance music. Some of you might remember me from the Postcard that Tenet did back in the fall, doing very, very different music than Roomful of Teeth.
She fancy.
You're fancy.
Fancy.
You're fancy. So tell me about you, Cameron.
Well, in the Beauchamp family, myself being a Beauchamp, um, there was a great lie flying around my family, instigated by my father, who told me when I was young that he played bass with Santana at Woodstock back in the day. And being a youngster, I didn't know what any of that meant, but it sounded really fancy. Uh, and then he showed me who Santana was, and he told me about the Woodstock Festival. He's like, "Oh yeah, they called me in last minute to play with Santana," and for years and years, probably until I was 16 or 17 years old, I believed this story, thinking, "Oh my God, my family has like these great roots in music, and I'm destined to be the next rock star." Uh, well, I'm glad he lied because it set me on a lifelong uh, passion to become a rock star. It hasn't happened yet, but I did join band and I played trombone for a long time. And then I got into high school, and it seemed like all the cool kids were in choir and singing. So I did a little double duty there and started singing, and that became one of my great passions in life. And I went on to sing in a bunch of amazing choirs and, like you, lots of early music and new music. And I continued to play my trombone in lots of different types of bands, rockabilly bands, ska bands, funk bands, hip hop bands, jazz bands. And now here I am, sitting in my little room in 2021, here, not able to leave the house, but able to still make extraordinary music and work with amazing young artists in San Francisco from San Antonio. So we, in a way, we have the pandemic to thank for some of these amazing connections.
For sure.
Virginia, I was just wondering, how do you find your inspiration for bringing creativity and imagination into your work with young performers? And let me just preface this by saying, Virginia is fancy pants and is a fancy pants teacher and is a guru of all things edumacation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Overstated, but thank you. So to answer that question, I have the privilege of now being a professor. I am teaching currently at the University of the Pacific in their Conservatory of Music. And I've always loved teaching. Roomful of Teeth, we've done a lot of teaching on the road. We, have probably spent close to half of our tour time engaging in residencies in universities and colleges all over the world, really. I think the last one that we did was in New Zealand, which was very cool. And so master classes, guest lectures and stuff like that. And I've always loved it. And now I get to do it full time. And even remotely, I love it. And it really the young performers that I'm working with inspire me on a daily basis, so I just want to put that first. I think that, especially being part of such a group as sort of on the front lines of innovation and sort of evolving traditions, as Roomful of Teeth is doing, it's sort of, we're moving into sort of the next generation of classical music making. And the young performers are the people that are actually going to carry that forward. And I find that really inspiring. I think it's really amazing to think about the fact that we have no idea what music is going to sound like in 20, 30 years. It just in the last, since Cameron and I have started our careers, the sort of classical music, Western music sort of landscape has changed so much, and that's going to continue to be the case, especially with all of the technological advances that are being made right now and accelerated by the pandemic out of necessity, which is very cool. And so all of these young performers are sort of coming out of this with skills that I didn't have until just last year. So these are going to be things that carry them through and through their whole careers, and will contribute to the sort of evolution of our Western musical tradition. So I think that's really exciting.
Amazing.
So can you talk about what we're doing with this project with the San Francisco Girls Chorus? Because I think it's really, really cool.
Yes. Well, I mean, first of all, we're getting to hang out with the group a few times, just the two of us, and we are sharing our knowledge and skills in a few vocal techniques with them. Belting, which has become one of our most favorite tools to employ in Roomful of Teeth, and Overtone Singing, which a lot of people have never heard of, but it's basically like singing one note and then creating these whistle tones with the overtone partials inside your mouth, and it makes a really gorgeous, wild sound. And then, of course, yodeling. We have to.
Of course.
We have to yodel. Everyone must yodel at least 3 times a day, whether you're a singer or not. So we're jamming on these sounds and techniques with these amazing young artists, and as the spring progresses, we're going to be working with a total superstar musician named Kava Menzies, who lives in the Bay Area, who is a performer and a composer, and she's going to write some music for Roomful of Teeth, all of us, and the San Francisco Girls Chorus. And we're going to learn it together, work with Kava, and then we're all going to record our parts. And our amazing sound engineer, Randall Squires, is going to put it all together and turn it into some serious magic. So that's what we're up to. And we know this is just the beginning of a long relationship between the two organizations, and it's gonna explode and be amazing for the future. So I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm stoked. I think the girls' chorus is full of some of the most talented young people singing today. I got to work with them in 2015 with a different group. We actually did a concert together and was wowed by them. These are our future colleagues. Mm-hmm. So they are just crazy talented, and are lucky to have a resource like the San Francisco Girls Chorus to further their education.
Now, if we're talking to their parents, if we're having a nice little
parent-teacher conference
here, yeah, exactly, parent-teacher conference right now, what would you say to the parents of these young musicians, especially the parents who don't have backgrounds in music or aren't musicians themselves? What would you say? What is important about making music to a young person?
Well, there's so many things. There's been many scientific studies on sort of the neurological benefits of making music, and how starting musical development at a young age actually helps to form connections that actually sometimes would not exist at all otherwise. But you develop these early, and so it connects the right brain and the left brain in very, very cool ways. It helps with fine motor skills. We're talking about early childhood development, certainly fine motor skills, coordination. It helps with discipline, dedication, and it helps with developing interpersonal skills. For sure, because you have to work with other people in order to do so, and you have to find ways to do so that are productive and promote kindness and generosity. And I think that's really important. And speaking of generosity, it also promotes sort of generosity of spirit and emotional openness, because especially as singers, we have to work. Singing is such a marriage or like symbiosis of the physical and the emotional sort of bodies, and for young people to really develop an awareness of their kind of emotional being and actually how it affects everything that you do in your sort of physical living. I think that's a really important reason. It's just our
instruments live inside our bodies,
yeah,
rather than outside.
We are the instrument, you know. Instrument. I mean, I could just keep going. Like, there's just so many ways, and none of that is to speak on the actual kind of like mental health benefits in many ways of creating art and being able to find ways to express yourself non-verbally in ways that are productive and cathartic, but actually productive.
It's fun.
It's fun too. Also, it's just fun.
Yeah, and to be able to do this during this time, wacky time we're living through right now, I feel really bad for people that don't have this in their lives because it has given us so many wonderful outlets and even coping mechanisms for getting through the week or the day, or, something to look forward to. So I think it's been so important for us and for everyone who practices music in 2020.
Now 2021.
It's the same year.
It's the same year. Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's like think about what everybody turned to when the world shut down in March of 2020. What did everybody turn to? Everybody turned to the arts. They started binge watching TV shows and movies. You know, those are absolutely married in with the performing arts like music. So I think the world turns to art and escapism in times of crisis, and music obviously sort of falls into that. And I think also sort of having the pandemic has caused a need for online concerts because people need to hear music and they need to see music, and so really the only way we can do that right now is with online concerts. But something that's obviously it will never be the same as a live show. There's definitely some energy missing in that, and we can't gloss over that really. But one thing that's really cool about this sort of new online paradigm is it creates much more kind of accessibility. Like we're able to reach a way, way, way wider sort of span of audiences and people that I think is actually going to be really important going forward looking forward to the future when we start doing in-person stuff again. I think that there's still going to be a continuation of online things because, you know,
It's the new way.
it's the new way, and you want as many people as possible to experience your art and find joy or comfort in it, or or something, or make them like you want to. The whole point of making music is to make other people feel things. I tell my students that all the time. Being technically perfect isn't necessarily the most important thing. The whole point of doing what you do is so that you can make other people feel things. And in continuing an online presence, we get to make even more people feel things.
It's beautiful. Well, we're very excited. As you can tell, we can talk about this for like days and days and days.
It's true.
So thank you all for having the two of us in Roomful of Teeth and inviting us, welcoming us into the big family of San Francisco Girls Chorus. And we'll see you soon with some crazy sounds and some new amazing music.
Excited.
Bye.